Okay, so let's quickly go through what we have covered in our previous class. So we were focusing on business process overview. Over here is a high-level snapshot of a BI process where we discuss from the left that every company will have different data sources. So for this company, as an example here, they are dealing with these data sources that are available for doing the reporting, doing the analysis, or better understanding how they are operating. So this one could be a transactional database. And then at the bottom, there's like a flat file. And then this is Excel based file. And then we have this front end application. So every application file, database, flat sources are generating data. So these are called as data sources. From here, using a process, which is called ETL process, over here, this arrow, we are collecting the data into the data warehouse. So data warehouse is a central repository. So once we have the data available, then we create models. So models are nothing but the initial steps what you do in Power BI. So the initial steps, what you perform in Power BI is connect to a data source, pull those tables into Power BI, let's say import mode to keep it simple. And then after that, we add relationships. So it could be one-to-many relationship trying to create a star schema. And then after that, we add all the DAX measures. So when we import the tables, add the relationships, and then add the DAX measures, so we create tabular models. And then the last step, what we do on Power BI side is we do visualization work. So once we have visuals built, then what we focus is to publish the dashboard onto Power BI service, which is nothing but app.powerbi.com, where we put the dashboards, reports, or workbooks. Workbooks will come from Excel. So we publish basically to a workspace, and then from a workspace, so we can publish as an app here. Okay, so workspaces are nothing but the way will have folders on our desktop. And then to keep your data set up to date on Power BI service, so we will be using gateways. So gateways will get the data from on-premises, and then it will load it and then make the new data available in the Power BI service. And then when users are consuming the dashboard reports, so they will be consuming from Power BI service, or we have a native mobile application. So we have this internet portal, and then we have the option to use it on the website as well. And then the other thing, what I told is, so let's say they are power users, those who are analyzing the data, if they are data analyst, manager, or executive. So sometimes they want to connect to the data sources and then they want to do the analysis. So that is when uh, the self-service analysis will come in picture. So having a good understanding of this complete flow will be really very important because every company will try to do the same thing. So they take the data from the data source, bring it into the data warehouse, and then from the data warehouse, so it will be moved to the tabular model. And then from there, we have the reporting environment where we are publishing it onto the Power BI service. And then we are sharing on the different platforms so that reports are accessible from different locations. So any questions on this slide? This slide is really crucial for you to get the complete picture. So if your focus, if your job title is just Power BI developer, you'll be completely working on Power BI. But as you will be working on data, so you need to have an awareness. Give me a second. Okay. So you need to have an awareness. So you need to have an awareness of how the data is flowing from the source system to the different systems. So the companies they will not directly use the data sources to do the reporting, but they will create their own layer. So this layer is called as data warehouse. And then on top of it, they also will try to create tabular models, because the engine of tabular models, as I explained yesterday, that is the columnar database. So each column would be stored separately. So this is like a three layer, I would say. So first we have source systems, then we have a data warehouse, and then on top of it, we have the tabular models. Okay, so let me clear all the drawings and then move to the next slide. S- So after this, we have looked into, so we as a Power BI developer will be using Power BI desktop, so connecting to the different models, doing the development, doing the visualization work, and then publishing it onto the Power BI service. And then after that, it will be accessible for all the users. And then the other thing what we covered was the company will try to integrate data from all the departments. So you could see the center point here will be the data warehouse, and then data coming from different departments here. And then the other thing what we covered was Power BI. When we work, either it will import the data and then save it. Otherwise, it will try to have a direct connection to the data source. If you're importing the data, then it is called import mode. And then if you're using only the connection to the data source, then it is called direct query. And when you're creating models and then when you're connecting, it's called live connection mode. And then when you're combining import query and then the direct query, then it is called composite models. Okay. And then the after that, we have seen the underlying engine of Power BI. So on the front end side, when we are interacting with the visual, behind the scenes, Power BI will try to generate a DAX query. So the DAX query is passed to the formula engine, and then from the formula engine, so formula engine works with the storage engine. So you could see we have this in columnar database, and then what it tries to do is it tries to returns the output and then displays on the front end side. So it happens for any visual that is available on the Power BI side. So whether it could be a slicer, or whether it is like a KPI, a KPI tile, or a chart, or a table visual. So every visual what you see on the front end side, behind the scenes, this is what it happens. So there will be a DAX query, and then the formula engine, storage engine will be working together to create an output for you. Now, as you as as you have an understanding about the direct query mode, you also can now understand the direct query mode option. So there is a question here saying, can we use SQL to import a data in Power BI? Uh, yes, so the Power BI connectors support you to enter the SQL query. So once you enter the server name, once you enter the database name, it gives you the option to write a select statement query, or a complex query as well, which returns the output, or it provides you the capability to connect to the database, and then it will list you all the tables that are available, all the views that are available, and then you can click whatever tables or objects you want to select. So once you have those selected, you can click on import mode, or the second option, what I'm highlighting here, the direct query mode. So you can use this direct query mode as well. So this one. So the difference here is in the import mode. So let's say you pointed to the data source and then you're loading it. And then let's say the data site is huge. This file size will become, for example, let's say 1 GB because you brought a copy of the data. So here we will have one copy. So let's say this is copy one, which is in the database. And then once you use import mode, this will have another copy. So that's the reason we will have gateways to keep this table, this copy, and then the copy available in Power BI up to date. Okay. And when it comes to a direct query mode, you're directly connecting to the database. So this is a server. Okay. So this is, let's say, a box, and then we have installed a database on this server. So when there is a front-end interaction on the dashboard side, so let's say when I selected a slicer here, this sends to the formula engine. And then when it comes to the storage engine, as this will not have the data, so this will be converted to a SQL query, and then it will be sent directly to the database, and then database will give you the result, and then it will finally be presented onto the front end side. So that's the reason uh, the direct query mode reports could be slightly slow because of this latency. So if there is a internet latency of this, or if this server is slow, then reports on the front end side could be slow. And then you could see supports one data sources. Uh, it could send multiple DAX queries, and then this SQL query will be converted into a native DAX query. The size of this PBIX will be very, very minimal. This will not be in GB because we will not be importing the data. So that's the key difference you have to understand. And when you imported the data, and then uh, when the import mode version of the dashboard, when you're working, so when you're interacting on the front end side, it's sent to the formula engine and then storage engine. So everything happens within the Power BI environment. Okay, so let me try to choose this one. Okay, so the box, what I'm drawing here, this is Power BI environment. And then you could see direct query mode for showing anything on the front end side. It's trying to go out of Power BI environment network, and then it's trying to return the data. But when you're working with the import mode, it will only go out of network or out of Power BI service whenever it has to get the latest data or new data. Otherwise, once you import the data, it will have a copy available here, and then whatever request it will be getting from the formula engine or from the front end interaction, it will be able to capture everything, and then it will be able to send it to the user. So as the data is now local in Power BI desktop, so it will take less time to be displayed onto the front end side. Hope this explanation makes sense, but this is very crucial for you guys to understand this really well, so that you would be able to explain it to the business users, like when you have to use the import mode, or when you have to use or go for the option for the direct query mode. Direct query mode option is really helpful when there is a huge data available, and then you don't want to import the data into Power BI, or the frequency of changes is like at a very granular level. So let's say every hour you're getting latest data, or if you want to have like a live streaming, more of near to live streaming data where you want to have everything live, then you go with the direct query mode. Because the key thing here, if you observe, so we have two copies here, copy one and copy two. So let me select back. Uh, okay, sorry. So here in the import mode, we have to refresh the report to keep the copy of data, copy 2 up to date with copy 1. So when a database person is working on when they are loading the data, so they will first update this, but Power BI will be out of sync. And then you have to have a process to refresh this copy 2 as well with the new data. But in direct query mode, so let's say if you have the same copy here, and then if the database developer is updating this, then you already have a connection here. So you don't have to worry on the Power BI side whether you have latest data available or not, because all the queries will be directly send it here to the database. And then again, if they are making a copy, then same thing, the changes will be reflected right away on the front end side. Compared to if there are changes here again, then again you have to take care and then update the Power BI report. So these two different approaches have advantages and disadvantages, but mostly import mode is used more compared to the direct query mode. But the other approach that I have set, which is called composite model. So let me type it here. Okay. So composite models are basically combination of the import mode version and then the direct query mode version. So where you will be using few tables in import mode and then few tables it will be in the direct query mode. So any questions on this? All right, so let me move on to the next slide. And these were the paths we were discussing when we do the development. I have another question here. Uh, so from Sana. So Sana, what part you were not able to follow from this?
The last part.
A composite model, you're saying?
No, this diagram.
Okay. Because in this one, we discuss about using the import mode, that is option number 1, which is available. And then option number 2 that is available for us is a direct query mode, where we don't copy and then save the data in Power BI. And then third option, what we said is we can use the combination here. And I can open Power BI desktop. So let's use Northwind dataset here. Okay, so if I see all the queries here, so the basic difference, the way you can differentiate if your report is using uh, composite model or import mode is at the bottom right, it will show you if any of the queries are import or if uh, all are the direct query connection. And then the other way you can differentiate between the import mode and direct query connection is, so when you come within the data view and then when you select any particular table here, so each table here will represent one query to the database. So this will be like select star from categories table. So in the direct query mode, this window will not show you data. So the only way you'll be able to see the data in the direct query mode is you have to come in the report view. So let me take a new report page here. And then when I select columns, category ID, category name, and description. So what will happen is, so this now when I added this table visual, okay, so right now this doesn't have a copy of the data. So no data is available here, but this only have a connection to the database. So when I added this table visual here on the front end side, so Power BI has sent instructions to the formula engine and then to through the storage engine. So it will directly go to the database, fetch the data that you're pointing to category table here, and then from here you're returning and then displaying onto the front end side. But in this approach, as we already have the copy of the data, and then when you're going here in the data view, so let me click on mouse here. So when we are going here in the data view, so as the data is now available local here, it's able to show you the data. And I'll set up the SQL server and then have the connection so that you guys can see the difference. So is it clear? Okay, so let me continue, and I have another question, but we can take it towards the end. So going on to the presentation mode, and here, so as I mentioned, all the steps here goes in a sequence. So any project that you are assigned to starts with a requirement, and then your task will be to complete the requirements and then have a dashboard available for the front end user. So for this requirement gathering, business analyst, and then if you're involved in that particular project, so business analyst and you will be working closely with the business users. So three key terms we have here. So one is requirement gathering, we have a business analyst, and we will have business users. Okay, so based on this, we will have a BRD created, which is called business requirement document. And then we have this requirements gathering. We have to get approval from the business user. So the key thing why we need approval from the business users is you'll be listing all the works that need to be done. And then sometimes the business analyst or the BI developers may not be capturing the requirements properly. So there will be improvement in the document. And then once everything is checked, then they will be giving a sign off with when we have to deliver this. So once we have this requirements document ready, then we will be analyzing in terms of the data side, because the first the complete BI picture, what we saw is first we have to get the data for doing the reporting. So when we go through the requirement, we will be understanding if we need to get any data sources into our data warehouse. So once we analyze the document better, so then we would have a technical document. So technical document when it is ready, so then Power BI developers from here will come in picture. So here you could see from here, this is a pure Power BI developer work. And then above this, all the steps what we are seeing here. So you may be get involved portion of the time, but not all the time. So at the bottom here, we are analyzing the data now on the front end side. So we pull the data. So we are seeing now we have few of the columns where it is on the date type. Few of the columns we have numerical data, and then few of the columns we have text-based data. And then we try to see what all requirements we have for the visuals. And then we will try to focus on creating quick visuals so that we could show, hey, for this year 2021, so these are the numbers we are saying. So is it correct? So this will help, the POCs will help data team to see if they are correctly loading the data or not. And then the second thing, it also will help business users to see the way they have proposed. Are they seeing the same output on the dashboard side or not? Okay, and then after that, we completely get involved in full-fledged development. So instead of creating a sample visuals, we will do a full-fledged development once we get the feedback, and then the data team is saying everything is looking good. And then after that, once we do the full-fledged development, presenting the reports, getting that final inputs from the users after making those changes, publishing to the Power BI service, and then doing some administration tasks. So when all the steps are done, you're all good. Your development will be completed here. Okay. So, yep, these are the things we covered. And we said we will have two different approaches. One is requirement gathering. We start with the requirement gathering where we don't have any existing report, but sometimes there could be existing reports already available in the organization. So the only step that would differ is analyzing existing reports. So once we analyze the existing reports, then we would be moving in the same steps what we have seen in the prior slides, where we understand the requirements, bring the data in Power BI, analyze it, build the visuals, and then publish it onto the Power BI service. So it will be pretty straightforward, same steps. And then moving to the next slide here. So this is an example of analyzing an existing report. For example, let's say we have this report available in Tableau, and then you got a requirement to work on this, and then now move it into Power BI. So the way you will be analyzing is you'll be seeing how many number of visuals and KPIs you have available, and then what information these KPIs are showing. So that way you would have an understanding whether these data points are available or not for you. Okay, and then information in each visual. So what information we are showing. So if I focus on this visual here, then you could see I'm showing the category here. So within computers, I have subcategory, and then I'm showing the sales amount in unit. So when I build in Power BI, I will be looking for category column, subcategory column, sales amount, and then unit price. So I would be needing this one, two, three, four, four columns to build this visual. So same thing, you can also see this as well. So let's say this is the sales amount. So you could see the sales amount here. And then the breakdown, what we are seeing here is by this the pie chart or whatever field it is. So we have to have these two fields available for bringing building this. So we can select the same visual in Power BI and then build it. And then we have to also understand what logic we have to use. So let's say if they are calculating sales amount for Australia differently compared to others, so Australia might be slightly different where they have to do some mathematical operation. So if they have to use three different columns, so they have to do A plus B and then minus C, you have to use this logic and then make updates. And then you could see, you have to observe what hierarchies they are using. So which we have already seen that we have one of the hierarchies available here, and then formatting numbers. So the if you observe closely here, then you could see this sales amount has the dollar formatting here, and then we have commas available. So same thing we can do in Power BI. And then when it is showing units, so we don't have any dollars here. Okay, so those are the simple formatting. You'll be you'll have that within the measure tools or the column tools, and then we'll get updated. And then at the backend side, this information will be really key for you for you to connect on the backend side. So you could see you have to know the database name, you have to know the server name. So this is where you will be connected, those two steps, and then you have to pick what all tables. So let's say you have to pick 5 tables. So you will be selecting all the 5 tables. If there are two views that are involved, you'll be selecting this what all store procedure. You'll be involving this, and then you'll be pulling. And then when you start the development on the Power BI side, the way you will be proceeding is you will be first connecting to the data source. So let's say if it is a SQL server, then you will be going on get data, and then you will be entering the server name, database name, selecting tables. And then after that, you will be adding DAX logic, what all DAX logics are needed. And then after that, what all information you have gathered based on the visuals and all, you will be doing a presentation of the data the way what we are seeing it here. So this is how you would be analyzing the data uh, from an existing report and then doing the same thing in Power BI. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Okay, so this big projects, smaller projects depends on the client. So when it is a big project that you're implementing, your pure focus will be on Power BI development. But if you're working on a smaller project, so the clients expect you to have a certain level where you're interacting with the business users and then understanding what they want to present on the dashboard. But if it is like a bigger project, then the key players for gathering the requirements will be, or gathering and then tracking your project dashboards will be business analyst, project manager, and then the scrum master. And at the bottom, you see the different type of users we have available, all the executive C-level users. And then we have department managers, we have business users, power users, analysts, and then subject matter experts. So this will be the end Power BI reporting users. And here we have sample questions that we basically ask during interview. So this we could try to cover in the next class. So